Within the Star Wars galaxy, there are many hated characters, and while some don't deserve their hate, others, let's just say, do. But probably the most iconic of these hated characters is Jar Jar Binks. But did you know that Jar Jar's own father hated him? So in today's video, I'll be telling you the tragic story of Jar Jar Binks' father. We Binks have a tradition that goes back hundreds of years, sailing across the seas on voyages that sometimes take us around the world. That was a quote taken from George R. Binks, a widely respected Gungan whaler, also Jar Jar's father. That's right, before becoming a senator and before that an outcast to the Gungan society, Jar Jar's family lineage set him to become a very well-respected whaler, which basically meant hunting down whales. The story of George R. Binks, who I will be referring to as George, began on the city of Utha Gunga on Naboo. Because George's family tradition of whaling went back centuries, at a young age, George already had his own fishing gang that traveled around his local city. And eventually, when he was older, he joined the family business and became a captain of the Binks and Son Whaling Company. George and his crew would embark on many long voyages that sometimes took him around the planet, and at some point in time, George would fall in love with a warrior woman named Shebla and was going to marry her until she found out about her infertility and then called off the marriage. To George, having a child was more important than love, and he would prove this as much when he married another woman, not because he loved her, but rather she was able to bear him a child. And soon after marrying her, he would have a child that he so desperately wanted and would name him Jar Jar Binks. He was born in 52 BBY. And starting as a child, George would try to teach Jar Jar the whaling profession and try to involve him in the family company. But Jar Jar would have no interest in this and instead would be too clumsy to do anything correct. And as a result of this, George would grow to resent his own son. And at one point during a whaling mission with his wife, son, and his crew on the storming seas of Naboo, George would locate a very large whale and try to harpoon it, but was unsuccessful. While George and the crew was trying to capture the whale and kill it, Jar Jar was put in charge of keeping the ship steady. But during the fight, the whale got caught in the ring of the ship, and as George tried to issue a series of commands to Jar Jar, Jar Jar, in typical fashion, would be unable to comply, would somehow get tangled within the ship's steering wheel, and because of this, the ship would sink and the Binks' family would be stranded on a barren island. A month later, the Binks are still stranded on the island, and as time went on, George would become increasingly annoyed with his son's antics. And on one occasion, when Jar Jar put a creature to his mouth and it got stuck there, George would lose it and grab Jar Jar by the throat while trying to take the creature out of his mouth and would insult Jar Jar. But Binks' mother would come to his rescue and would calm down George, and soon after this, George would go crazy and plant a white flag in the sand and name the island the Binks' Woe. But as George delved deeper into insanity, Jar Jar would bring him back by trying to help his father by suggesting that he could swim for help. And while he was originally going to talk his son out of it, he realized that this could be his only opportunity to get rid of the boy forever. But before he could throw his son into the ocean, he was stopped by his wife. And after his failed attempt to kill his son, and not wanting to spend any more time on the island with his own son, he would take out his blaster and try to take his own life. But his wife would try to stop him and would try to mention all the things he had so much to live for. But as she was telling him this, she made the mistake of mentioning his son, which caused George to pull the trigger. But thanks to his bad aim, he only grazed the top of his scalp, which caused him to lose consciousness. As he was knocked out, he dreamed about the woman he truly loved, the warrior woman, and how he wished he married her instead. And when he finally came back to reality and regained his thoughts, he would see Jar Jar Binks running around on the island shore with an octopus locked onto his face. And then George would just break down crying. Unfortunately though, it is unknown how they would escape the island, and from what we know, that is the full story. There is unfortunately no continuation of what happens afterwards. But anyway, that is the depressing story of Jar Jar Binks' father. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, and with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.